I'm Ashley.
I'm Lauren, and this is
Whispers in the Basement.
Hi.
Sorry, I was just like looking at you like, and here we are.
Here we are.
This is quite a change because we were talking about nail polish earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And all of the nail polish complaints.
Yeah, we went on it. Any male that listens to this doesn't really care, but Ashley and I went into this.
It really started with you.
It really did, and then I
easily influenced Nellie over here.
Yeah, and then Peyton also jumped in on it, but
she's not in as deep as we are.
No, not financially, at least.
No.
But we've gone into this deep rabbit hole of all of these, I guess, indie.
Yeah.
Nail polish
but
brands.
Some of them are luxury indie.
Yeah, they're a higher price point than anything at Walmart.
Yeah, when you're paying $13 or $16 a bottle.
Yeah.
That shit better be gold on my nails.
And it better be a flawless application.
And sometimes it's not.
Correct. And so that's what we're bitching about is.
Correct. But it's fine.
It is. We'll figure it out.
So today's episode's going to be kind of long, and it's actually, I did you a favor. It's a two-parter.
I'm stoked.
Yeah, you have no.
Because I still have no idea what this is about.
Girl, you about to be mind blown.
Mind blown.
So I don't have any updates. Do you have updates?
No, I was thinking about this before I came over because I was I had a lot of really cool things to talk about.
Did they all just fly out of your head?
No. Last week I had a lot of things to talk about, but this week I was like,
nope.
No, nothing really monumental happened.
Cool.
I'm here for it, though.
I mean, it's not cool, but it's okay.
Well,
it works.
I guess, yeah, because since we're doing the two-parter and we're recording the second part today, nobody will even be updated on how JC's party goes.
Nope, you guys will have to wait a while for that one.
Yeah, it's a tea party.
But you don't get the second part of this until next week, so I'm terribly sorry. I am going to leave you on quite the cliffhanger in part one.
I'm so stoked because we've never had a two-parter.
It's a two-parter.
And I don't even know what this is, but you have really been edging me.
Oh, girl.
This whole time.
All right, so before I get this started, I do need to give out a blanker trigger warning. A blanket trigger warning. It's a pretty gruesome case. Wow.
Gacy? Are we talking about...
It is not John Wayne Gacy. We're going to...
Blanker?
We're going to do a Willy Wonka. We're doing a Gene Wilder. We're going to strike that, reverse it. Before I start this episode, I want to give out a blanket trigger warning. This case is gruesome. There we go. There's the word.
Good
and it does involve the death of infants.
Oh, are we going to cry?
I did not cry, but I think it's because when you're researching it, you become pretty desensitized. It's pretty bad. So this one, it wasn't an easy one to research, and some of the things that we talk about, they're pretty horrific. So I'm telling you from the beginning, it's gruesome, and we always want our listeners to stay, but if this is something that's a trigger for you, completely understand if you skip this one, but you'll also be skipping part 2, so you're going to be missing 2 weeks, but I get it. So we're going to hop in the time machine.
Okay.
That was not a really good time machine.
I was like, what year are we hitting?
We're going back to the 1800s.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, for this one. And we're going to jump across the pond, and we're going to go to the United Kingdom. So.
We should have gotten cups of tea to drink with this.
Well, I mean, yeah, it would have been fitting for Britain. That's so American.
Britain.
So today we're going to cover a candidate of one of history's most prolific serial killers, and her name is a female, is Amelia Dyer. She was dubbed as the Ogress of Reading.
Oh.
And honestly, Ogress is such a funny, it's funny.
I was going to say, did she look like an ogre?
You Google her. Google Amelia Dyer and tell me she don't resemble an ogre, and not even like a Princess Fiona. She's stern. She's a scary looking woman. You don't want to meet her in an alleyway.
She kind of looks like my nanny.
Oh, okay.
Like,
Well,
it has that, like, hard look.
she's very hard looking, yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you look up pictures of her, she's special. So who is Amelia Dyer? Well, she was born Amelia Elizabeth Hobley. She was born in 1837, and she was the youngest of 5. So originally, her parents had 5 kids, 3 boys. So she had 3 brothers and a sister that her name was Anne. Amelia's father, Samuel Hobley, he was a master shoemaker, and from all accounts, she was raised pretty well for the time. So you're in 1837. It's kind of hard times back then. And
Absolutely.
She was raised pretty good for the time. She actually, she attended school. She was well fed. She had decent clothes. Like, I know those are small things to us now, but back then they were huge.
Absolutely. Like, she wasn't just,
I mean,
like, living off grid.
Yeah, this is like during the time of Jack the Ripper. So, it's the fact that you have a home and you can attend school, that says a lot. So attending school, Amelia started to, she knew how to read and write. So she really took an interest in literature and poetry. And her personality as a kid, she was a pretty natural caretaker. In 1841, Amelia's one and only sister Anne, I'm sorry, her sister's name was Sarah Ann, her one and only sister. She actually died at the age of 6. So as we get a little bit deeper into this, we're going to be like looking at statistics. And when you hear about a child dying at the age of 6 right now, you're like, God, that's awful.
Right.
Back then, it was nothing.
Well, I think we think about that a lot. I think even whenever women talk about how back in the day they didn't have medicine during childbirth and people had babies at home all the time. I mean, have you seen the birth, like the
death rates?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was insane. So Samuel and Amelia's mother, Sarah, they later had another daughter that they also named Sarah Ann, which I thought that was super weird, but I think that happened a lot then too. Mm-hmm. And she ended up passing away after just a few months of living. So long story short, Amelia is the only girl left after 1845. Mm-hmm. During her childhood, Amelia's mother, Sarah, suffered from a mental illness that she developed after she experienced typhus fever. This illness caused Sarah to have fits of violence, and Amelia ended up being the primary caretaker to her mother until she ended up passing in 1848. It was later thought that because Amelia was the sole source of assistance with her mother during this period, that this had a huge effect on her development. Because at the time, Amelia was not very old. Right. So she was often beaten by her mother during these fits of rage. And because of these things happening to her, it was thought to have seeded Dyer's violent side that was later seen in life. Amelia was about 9 or 10 years old when her mother died. So having gone through that during some of the most developmental times in a child's life, I would say that had a pretty big impact on her mentality and outlook.
Pretty traumatic, I'm sure.
For sure. So once Amelia's mother passed, she was actually sent to live with her aunt in Bristol before serving an apprenticeship with a corset maker, and she did that when she was a teenager. Her father passed in 1859, and he ended up leaving the family shoe business to her oldest brother, Thomas. While living in Bristol, at the age of 24, Amelia met and married George Thomas. Now, George was quite a bit older than Amelia. In fact, he was 35 years her senior.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So these two were married, but when they were married, they both lied on the marriage certificate to lessen the age gap. Okay, so he actually took 11 years off of his age, and she added 6 to hers, which is very strange to me.
That's so... I mean, if there's one thing that tells you that you're definitely doing something wrong, I feel like having to alter your age on a marriage certificate would be it.
Was that something that was just done during the time, though?
I don't know. Also, I wanted to not backtrack, but kind of backtrack about her going to live with her aunt. Why didn't she stay with her dad?
I would assume because at that time, I feel like during that time, females needed to be around other females.
It was just like the societal norm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You need to learn
Like housewife
manners
duties
and how to be a proper lady and things
Mm-hmm.
like that. You're not going to learn that from your dad.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So early in her marriage to George, Amelia made a decision that would actually change the trajectory of her life and steal the fate of hundreds of children. Amelia decided to train as a nurse. It's said that because of her childhood and the time that she spent caring for her mother, her trait of being a natural caregiver, that this was the occupation that seemed pretty fitting for Amelia. Nursing during those days, though, it wasn't nursing as we know it today.
Right. Yeah.
It was experiencing, so the whole nursing, the word era just came to my head, and that's not. The whole nursing, like, I would say industry, like that career, they were experiencing a cultural change. However, nurses, they were not caring people. They weren't caring and compassionate. They were actually trained to be fairly emotionless, and they were trained to focus more on the psychological effects of things. So they knew how to deal with a lot of the things that with patients that they would be dealing with on a daily basis. So to put it plainly, these women were trained to be pretty cold people as far as compassion goes. Yeah, that was just the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Dyer, she became pregnant with her first child in 1864 at the age of 26.
By her old ass husband?
By her old ass husband. Okay. Women were not allowed to work once their pregnancies began to show. So it was at this time that Dyer decided to leave the nursing field and then soon gave birth to her daughter, Ellen Thomas. In the next few years, she actually exited the nursing field. And it was during these years after exiting the nursing field that she was introduced to a woman and a practice that would forever change her life. So, and this is very strange. There's so many like common names. You have her daughter, Ellen Thomas. But Dyer and her husband actually ran I don't want to say a boarding home, but they had like spare rooms that they would, give out to boarders.
Right.
Ellen Dane had been a boarder that lived with Amelia and her husband for a short stint of time. Ellen was a midwife who also earned extra money on the side by accepting unwanted babies from mothers who gave birth out of wedlock. So that act at this time was known as baby farming.
Whoa.
Yeah. Amelia, who was also a midwife from her training as a nurse, she saw that as an easy way to earn money. So it would actually take a few years for this idea to come to fruition. And in 1869, the death of her husband, George, left Amelia in need of income. Knowing the struggles of being a single mother in Victorian England, Dyer saw her opening to make easy money baby farming. Acting as the assisting nurse to a midwife and now having a home to herself placed Dyer in a situation where she could advertise to nurse and adopt unwanted babies. Some instances, she would take in an expectant mother at a point where the pregnancy could no longer be concealable. Then she would assist with the birth and then keep the baby for a substantial payment along with proper clothing for the children.
So like the moms would pay her to take the baby.
Yeah. So now let's talk about baby farming.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, what is it?
Yes.
Baby farming was the act of fostering or adopting an unwanted child in exchange for a fee. Initially, many honest baby farming facilities would take in these children, much similar to how we have foster families these days. Mm-hmm. They would foster and care for the children until the mother returned, and then the mother could take the child back. In those cases, the children were known as nurse children. But just like any other good thing put in place comes people who take advantage of the situation. Mm-hmm. So with due time, the term baby farmer was used as an insult, and it usually implied improper treatment of the infant once left with the baby farmer. So it was considered an easy way of living at the time due to the fact that most women couldn't keep the children due to the society stigma, and baby farmers were looked at as a solution to the problem for most of these unwed mothers.
Oh.
Baby farming at the time, it wasn't regulated, nor was it policed, so it made it very easy for exploitation.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, why is this a big deal? I mean, other than the fact of what it could, like the bad parts of it.
Yeah.
So during the Victorian period, unmarried mothers often struggled for income because of a law or an act that was put in place in 1834. It was called the Poor Law Amendment Act. That act removed any financial obligation from the fathers of illegitimate children.
It's just wild to me that literally...
Oh, you're going to be blown
great.
off your rocker.
Okay, keep going.
During this time, single parenthood and illegitimacy was considered a stigma. It was very looked down on. So because of this, the practice of baby farming was done. Individuals acted as adoption or fostering agents in return for either a single payment or a regular payment from the baby's mothers. Or also common were advertisements in the newspapers where single mothers were actually seeking somebody to take their child. Yeah.
That is crazy.
It sounds so bleak, but we're in Victorian England, and during the Victorian era in England, I think sometimes the image is painted that, you know, they cared a lot about family values, but in reality, there was very little work. It was poor living conditions and many or abandoned, neglected children.
Yeah. It's almost just like a bunch of stray dogs, but children.
Oh, 1 in every 12 women during that time were prostitutes. That's the only way they could make money. They did have workhouses that the children, like the unwed mother and the children could live in, the child, but that was the conditions awful.
That is terrible.
Also, children born under even just normal circumstances during those days had a 50% chance of reaching the age of 5. That's why I say, like, when her sister died at the age of 6, that sounds so crazy to us.
Yeah.
That was normal back then. There was no form of birth control, and abortions were not a common practice. So it was not out of the ordinary that women would sell off their newborns, or even better, police were known to find them under benches in parks or trains.
The babies?
Or train stations, simply because society at the time was not pro single mom.
I think it's so crazy that men get off scot-free.
Oh, yeah.
But I feel like they always do. I mean,
yeah, they do.
It just is nuts that
I say they do,
never...
but I don't know if that's true these days.
Well, no, but like even back then, it's
for
just,
sure.
Women are always
a
stuck
man's
with the
world.
burden.
But this whole, illegitimate child thing was so looked down upon that even orphanages would only accept children where the father had died, leaving the mother in a state that she couldn't care for the child. They would not take kids that were born out of wedlock.
Wow.
So what do you do?
Yeah.
If the parents were well off, because that happened too, they were often exploited for financial gain to keep the birth a secret. So their single fee might be as much as £80 or more if the father wanted to hush his involvement. More commonly, though, were expectant mothers who were impoverished, and they would be charged about £5. So in today's currency, if you're looking £80 then versus now, it's about $20,000 for a well-off family.
Wow.
For an impoverished mother, £5, I think, is normally what they were charged. It's about $1,000 that these women were getting to accept their children. I think a lot of women were assuming they're going to take care of my child.
Absolutely.
And I think some of them knew it's just a means to an end at this point. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. So these baby farmers very rarely, if ever, kept the children as nurse children. You did have some that were doing the good, and then you had a lot that were not. More often than not, the babies would die of starvation, or baby farmers would sedate them with alcohol and or opiates.
Oh my God.
There was a syrup known as Mother's Friend that was pretty popular at the time, and it contained opium. So opium killed more infants through starvation than through overdose. Opium would actually keep the kids in a constant state of like, it would dull their cries for food.
Yeah, I was gonna say it just kind of puts them into a floating cloud of nothingness.
Yep.
Yeah.
So they'd stop crying. They weren't hungry. So what happens? They become severely malnutritioned. They die. When taken to the coroner upon death, malnutrition was often noted as the cause of death, with notes stating debility from birth, lack of breast milk, or just simply starvation. Many mothers who fostered out their children, sometimes they did come back to reclaim them later or just check on them, but they would encounter difficulties because
their kids were dead.
They're either gone or whatever. But at that point, they couldn't really do anything because they couldn't go to the cops, to the police, to the authorities for shame, because it's looked down on, fright. So they never really turned these people in for wrongdoing.
Wow.
Yeah. By the mid-19th century, there were said to be at least 2,000 baby farmers in London alone. At the time, advertisements in the local newspapers were a dime a dozen, with women or families putting out ads to adopt unwanted babies. It was a matter of time before Dyer's advertisements were right next to some of the most prominent baby farmers of the time. In them, she would paint herself as a respectable and married woman who would provide a safe and loving home for the child. When she was finally arrested, so spoiler alert, she does get arrested, she gets caught.
Good.
Many of her correspondences were found and kept as evidence to be used during her trial. In these letters, she's a pretty persuasive woman, and she carefully crafted these letters to help provide comfort to those mothers who were going to be giving their children to her. So, remember, she thrived in reading and writing and literature, so it's not a shocker that she kind of knows how to depict herself in these ads to seem very appealing to a mother in dire need of someone to take care of her baby and provide a life that would allow a fair chance for them to live.
This is
I told you.
crazy. It also makes you wonder if, because she was her mom's caretaker, and maybe you're going to get into this, her psychology of why she does that. But.
Yeah. Now, Amelia did not set herself up as a baby farmer under positive intent. I'm sure you've picked up on that.
Oh, absolutely.
She'd already decided that she had zero intention on keeping many of these babies that she would be fostering or adopting. There's far more money to be earned if she took these children with the intent of shortening their lifespan. Because you can't go adopting 65 kids.
No, yeah.
You can't take care. They cost money.
Yeah.
So initially, Dyer she would help give birth to these babies, because remember, she's also a midwife. So during the birthing process, she was known to suffocate the children before they even were allowed to take their first breath. Doing that, so while the baby's coming out, if you suffocate them initially before they take their first breath, they don't turn blue. So it doesn't look like
So it doesn't show up on an autopsy.
Yeah, it doesn't look like they've been suffocated. It just looks like you gave birth to a stillbirth baby.
That is
awful.
So fucked up.
Oh, yeah. These one-off payments, though, they weren't profitable to Dyer, and it resulted in her keeping the babies and then starving them, causing their death. So as you can imagine, a hungry baby's not a quiet baby.
No, yeah.
So rather than dealing with the fussiness of a newborn, she would give them that Mother's Friend syrup. Yeah.
Where was her husband?
He's dead.
Oh, he had already died?
Oh, yeah. She didn't. That's the whole reason she started doing this baby farming.
Oh,
he's gone.
Shit.
He's gone. She's left with the child, and she has no source of income because Victorian
So you might as well
society,
prey on vulnerable people.
Yeah, Victorian society is not pro single mom, and how else are you going to make money? This is how she does it. Yeah. So,
wow.
Mother's Friend, it was an over-the-counter drug. It was used for anti-colic It was an anti-colic medicine.
Can you
And
imagine nowadays if we were just to give that to kids that have colic?
I mean, they've made so many changes. I mean, Christ, I ate dirt, as a kid. And I'm sure nowadays they're like, don't do that. It's radioactive. And then you're like, I mean, I'm still here.
Right.
But anyways, that medicine, it contained liquid opium. So I always butcher this word. Laudanum?
I don't even know what you're trying to say. So
Laudanum. It's a liquid opium.
Oh, okay.
Is what it is. It makes them sleepy, basically. Makes them sleepy. So it killed, like I said before, more infants through starvation than overdose. So, yeah, we already talked about this. It like keeps it keeps them in that constant sleepy state, so they don't get hungry, and then they die of malnutrition, basically. So also, though, not only is she giving these babies laudanum, she's taking it herself on a daily basis. So a lot of people think that she was doing this as like her way of coping.
Yeah, like
to disconnect from what she's been doing.
Yeah, like people that depend on alcohol or drugs.
100%.
Yeah.
So going into the 1870s, Parliament was made aware of not just the baby farmer problem, but also just the number of kids that had been found neglected, some dead, and just the overall cruelty to children as a direct result from that Parliament Act that was passed before.
Yeah.
In 1834. In 1870, the high-profile arrest of one of the largest baby farmers, Margaret Waters, directly threatened Amelia's choice of income. Margaret Waters was brought forth to authorities after she was caught having killed a baby from a family that did not want the baby to be killed.
Oh.
She and her sister were both investigated and charged with murder. During the investigations, they were both found to have killed 4 other babies, and they subsequently died from neglect while in these women's care, all having died within a short span of time of being with the 2 women. The result of this investigation brought to the surface the baby farming epidemic and made not only the public aware, but also Parliament.
Wow.
So this scandal could not be ignored, and due to the magnitude of the problem, someone had to take the fall for it, which meant someone had to be hanged.
Oh my God.
And Margaret Waters was hanged, guilty or not. So she is the first baby farmer.
Damn.
With the death penalty.
Oops.
During the investigation against Margaret and her sister, evidence was found that directly linked Amelia Dyer to Margaret Waters.
Oh.
Amelia was known to use several aliases when operating and pursuing children to care for. She often went under the names of Mrs. Harding or Mrs. Smith. These names were provided to the press, and authorities were seeking out these accomplices to be held accountable for their actions.
Oh, no.
Several of her fellow colleagues started to struggle, and her longtime friend Ellen Dane, the lady that she first learned how to do this from, she actually fled the country to the United States in an effort to evade the authorities. Dyer, in a panic, closed her baby farm and sought employment as an attendant at a nearby asylum.
This woman, I wish that there was a way to just voice my facial reactions every time you say a sentence, because I'm just the
dead air is your face. It's just like, what?
Yeah.
Insane. During her time working at the asylum, she seemed to have made a turn in her life for the better. In 1872, she remarried, and she married a man by the name of William Dyer, and she actually had 2 additional children. From all accounts, they seemed to have an ordinary life, yet they had another encounter with a loss of income, and William lost his job, and Amelia found herself yet again in the baby farming business. This venture, however, would be a heightened one in comparison to her previous years as a baby farmer. it's unsure if her hiatus for the small bit of time was the cause of her acceleration or if it was just simply greed for money.
Right.
But whatever the reason, she pretty much went over the edge with it this time. So I think we see that a lot too, just in other serial killers. Like when they take a hiatus or they supposedly go into hiding, or you have that long span of nothing happening.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden it happens again. It's like boom, 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 boom. It happens so fast.
Yeah.
So many.
Uh-huh.
And is it because they took that break? We don't
And
know.
like they were just holding off on that desire.
Or
and
did
then
they
now
never
it's
take the
just
break and nobody just
caught on?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
It just is. I think what makes this so terrible is literally the fact that it's innocent babies.
It's babies. Yeah.
Like, go fucking kill some adults that are doing terrible things.
There was actually, well, I'll bring it up at the end of this episode. We'll talk about it.
I do this all the time. I get way ahead of like what you're going to
you're
say.
stealing my thunder, man.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. I'm just kidding. Now, even though Amelia took a short break in the baby farming business, society did not. There was still a large amount of pressure to confront and put in place something to help protect children. Due to this pressure, it was no surprise that Amelia was soon investigated for the deaths of 4 children that occurred in the span of 2 weeks.
Whoa.
Mm-hmm. With the Inquisition and the suspicions around Amelia, the chance of arrest, it was intensifying. Amelia, however, wouldn't accept arrest and had a different ending in mind. And that is where I'm going to leave you. But I'm going to talk about what you just said about killing adults.
Yeah.
If you start traveling down the Amelia Dyer rabbit hole, there are theories that links her to Jack the Ripper.
Oh, okay.
I don't know as I believe it, but I did read that some people linked her to the Jack the Ripper killings because they thought that they thought these women might actually have been pregnant and she was stealing their babies out of their wombs. Or doing something to do with abortions. So I don't know as that's true.
Oh.
But that's what they say. Also, another thing, which I read a couple of different things and I watched a documentary that I will link in the show notes, but I never could find it in actual like writing, but it was mentioned in the documentary that her first daughter, that she actually baby farmed her first daughter out.
What?
Like I said, I couldn't find anything in writing, so I didn't put it in the notes, but it was in the documentary.
So she's just a no good, very bad apple.
Yes.
I mean,
yeah.
Gosh.
Was it a product, is she a product of her environment that she was raised in?
Absolutely, yeah.
Also, like, it doesn't help that going through the training as a nurse, I don't remember what war it was. There was some war taking place back then as she was like, and it was ending as she was going into her nursing training.
Yeah.
But you kind of have to, I would imagine it being similar to being an EMT or something, like somebody that has to show up first on those car accidents or whatever. You kind of have to become a little desensitized, or a police officer, an investigator.
Yeah.
You can't, you have to have a light switch to turn it on and off. Otherwise, I don't know how you just get through normal life. Yes. Yeah. So some people think that maybe that was impactful on some of her decisions. I don't know. I just know.
Yeah.
She's an ugly person inside and out.
Yeah, absolutely.
You don't want to meet her in an alleyway. And she's greedy.
Yeah, very much. I think this was just the perfect storm. She had a shitty childhood.
She did, but she didn't.
Like, I mean, she did, like, yeah, I guess.
Going through what she went through with her mom, yeah, that's bad. Well, she also had it a lot better than some other kids did.
Absolutely. Like, she didn't grow up in, like, straight up poverty.
No.
Yeah.
Nope. Yeah. Cray.
Very crazy.
Yeah.
Wow, I can't wait to finish this now.
Yep, that's the end of part 1. I'm trying to chunk these up in shorter chunks.
Yeah, so
that way
it's not like one.
Yes, it's not so much like, God, Ashley, shut the up. I'm tired of listening to your voice. Cause
I like how you censored yourself for that one moment in your life.
Sometimes I get sick of my voice too. So, yeah.
That wraps up today's episode. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube, Amazon Music, and Patreon.
Don't forget. What is with me today in words? Don't forget to subscribe. Leave a 5-star review. Give us a thumbs up on YouTube and hit that notification bell so you can get an alert every time a new episode drops. So tap that app. Tap that app.
We'll see you next week, but in the meantime,
stay strange, my friends.
You